For 13 years, Mark Ellison prayed for a child. But one photo changed everything and led to murder. Hey, don't forget to like, please subscribe for more shocking crime stories, and hit the bell icon. The darkest truth are yet to come. In the quiet suburb of Maple Grove, Minnesota, where maple trees line the streets and kids ride bikes until dusk, Mark and Lena Ellison's two-story brick house sat like a postcard of the American dream. It was 2025, and to their neighbors, the Ellisons were the couple everyone envied. Mark, a 42-year-old high school history teacher, was the guy who'd shovel your driveway after a snowstorm. Lena, 40, was softer, more reserved, always tending to her garden or baking cookies for the block party. They'd been married since 2012, and from the outside their life was perfect. But inside those walls, a quiet ache had grown louder with every passing year. They wanted a baby, desperately. And after 13 years of trying, hope was starting to feel like a cruel joke. Mark would sit at the kitchen table every night, his tie loosened, grading papers under the glow of a pendant light. Lena would hum softly, stirring a pot of chili or folding laundry. To anyone watching, it was domestic bliss. But the silence between them wasn't always comfortable. It carried the weight of a question neither dared to ask anymore. Why can't we have a child? Neighbors, well-meaning but nosy, would drop hints at barbecues. You two would make such great parents, they'd say, their eyes lingering. Mark would force a smile, muttering, "We're still trying. Keep us in your prayers." Lena, though, would change the subject, her laugh a little, too sharp, her hands fidgeting with her necklace. The pressure wasn't just external. Mark had always pictured himself as a dad, teaching his kid to throw a baseball, cheering at soccer games. He'd grown up in a big family, 3 brothers and a sister, all with kids of their own now. Family gatherings were a reminder of what he didn't have. His mom, in her gentle but cutting way, would ask, "Mark, when are we getting grandkids?" He'd shrug, but each time it stung deeper. Lena, on the other hand, seemed less eager to talk about it. Early in their marriage, they'd visited a fertility clinic. Mark's tests came back normal, but when it was Lena's turn, she'd hesitate. "I don't trust doctors," she'd say, her voice tight. "Let's try naturally a bit longer." Mark, ever patient, didn't push. Love, he told himself, meant trust. But trust can erode, even in the strongest marriages. By 2025, Mark was starting to notice things. Small things at first. Lena never talked about her childhood. No stories about high school, no old friends. Who called? Her family, she'd said, had passed away in a fire when she was a teenager. Tragic, but she'd offered so few details that Mark had stopped asking. Her KTP, driver's license, and marriage certificate were all in order. Lena Marie Ellison, born in Duluth, Minnesota. Nothing seemed off, legally. Yet, there were quirks. Lena was fiercely private about her body. She'd change in the bathroom, with the door locked, even after a decade of marriage. "It's just how I was raised," she'd say, her smile disarming. Mark had accepted it, but lately, it gnawed at him. Why was she so guarded? One chilly March evening, Mark sat in his home office, a glass of bourbon in hand, staring at a stack of ungraded essays. The house was quiet. Lena was at a book club she'd recently joined. He'd been feeling off all week ever since a coworker, Tom, had made an offhand comment at lunch. "You and Lena ever think about adoption?" Tom had asked. Mark had shrugged. But Tom pressed, 13 years is a long time to keep trying. Something's got to give, right?" The words stuck with him like a splinter he couldn't pull out. Was it really just bad luck? Or was there something Lena wasn't telling him? Mark's eyes drifted to a locked drawer in Lena's desk across the room. She'd always said it held old papers, but he'd never seen inside. Curiosity tugged at him. He took another sip of bourbon, the burn steadying his nerves. Just a look, he thought. What's the harm? The drawer was locked, but the key was in a ceramic dish on the shelf. Lena wasn't as careful as she thought. His hands trembled as he turned the lock. Inside were bank statements, a few receipts, and a faded manila envelope. He opened it, expecting bills or tax forms. Instead, he found a single photo, creased and worn, of a teenage boy in a high school yearbook. The name beneath it read, Liam Carter. The face looked eerily familiar, same sharp jawline, same piercing hazel eyes. His heart skipped. Was this Lena? The room spun. Mark sat back, the photo trembling in his hand. His mind raced, piecing together fragments. Lena's secrecy, her avoidance of doctors, the way she'd tense when he brought up kids. Was this boy a brother she'd never mentioned? A cousin or something else entirely? He didn't want to believe it, but the thought crept in. What if Lena isn't who she says she is? He shoved the photo back into the envelope, his pulse pounding. He couldn't confront her. Not yet. He needed answers. The next morning, Mark was distracted, barely listening as Lena chatted about her book club over breakfast. "You okay, hun?" she asked, her brow furrowed. "Just tired," he lied, forcing a smile. But his eyes kept darting to her, searching for clues in her face. That day at school, he confided in Tom over coffee in the break room. "Something's off with Lena," he said, keeping his voice low. "I found this photo. It's a guy, but it looks like her. I don't know what to think." Tom leaned forward, his face serious. "You sure you want to dig into this, man? Sometimes you find things you can't unsee." Mark nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. What if he was wrong? What if he was betraying her? That night, Lena was out again. Another book club meeting, she'd said. Mark couldn't shake the unease. He pulled out his laptop and started searching. Liam Carter, Duluth, Minnesota. The results were sparse. An old high school newsletter, a mention in a local paper about a debate team. But one link caught his eye. A medical record from 2009, partially public due to a data breach. It listed Liam Carter undergoing gender-affirming care in Minneapolis. Mark's breath caught. The dates lined up. Lena would have been in her mid-20s then, just before they met at a charity gala in 2011. His hands shook as he clicked the link. The screen loaded, and there it was. Confirmation of a name change. Liam Carter had become Lena Marie Carter. Mark slammed the laptop shut, his chest tight. The woman he'd loved for 13 years, the woman he'd shared his dreams with, wasn't who he thought. She was transgender. She'd never told him. Not once. The betrayal cut deeper than the secret itself. All those years of hoping for a child, all those tests he'd endured, the whispers from family. She'd known it was impossible. Why hadn't she trusted him? He sat in the dark, the silence of the house pressing in. Then he heard it. The faint jingle of keys at the front door. Lena was home. "Mark?" she called, her voice soft. "You up?" He didn't answer, his mind racing. Should he confront her? Pretend he knew nothing? The photo burned in his memory, that teenage boy staring back at him. He stood, his hands clenched, and walked toward the living room. Lena was hanging her coat, her back to him. "Hey," she said, turning with a smile. But her eyes caught something in his face, and her smile faltered. "What's wrong?" she asked. Mark's voice was low, barely controlled. "Who's Liam Carter?" Lena froze, her face paling. The air between them crackled with tension. For a moment, neither spoke. Then her lips parted, but no words came. Mark stepped closer, his heart pounding. "I found the photo, Lena. I know about the name change. Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes darted to the side like she was searching for an escape. "Mark, please," she whispered. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" he demanded, his voice rising. 13 years, Lena. 13 years of me thinking we could have a family. Did you ever plan to tell me the truth?" She backed away, her hands trembling. "I wanted to," she said, tears welling. "I was scared. I thought you'd leave me." Mark's anger boiled over, but before he could speak, his phone buzzed on the counter. A text from an unknown number. "You're asking the wrong questions. Check her phone." He stared at the screen. his blood running cold. Who sent this, and what else was Lena hiding? Mark Ellison stood frozen in his living room, the name Liam Carter hanging in the air like smoke. The mysterious text on his phone, "You're asking the wrong questions. Check her phone," burned in his mind, daring him to unravel the truth about his wife, Lena, and the 13 years they'd spent chasing a child that was never coming. Lena's face was a mask of panic, her hazel eyes wide as she backed toward the couch. "Mark, please," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You don't understand." Her hands trembled, clutching the edge of her sweater. Mark's anger surged, but that text stopped him cold. Who sent it? And what was on Lena's phone? "Then make me understand," he said, his voice low, barely containing the storm inside him. "Who's Liam Carter? And don't lie to me." Lena's lips parted, but instead of answering, she turned and bolted upstairs, the bedroom door slamming behind her. Mark stared at his phone, the unknown number glaring back. His thumb hovered over the screen, tempted to reply, but fear held him back. Instead, he grabbed Lena's phone from the kitchen counter where she'd left it. She'd changed her passcode recently, another red flag. He tried her birthday, their anniversary, even his own birthday. Nothing worked. Frustration gnawed at him, but he couldn't stop now. He slipped the phone into his pocket, his mind racing. "What are you hiding, Lena?" The next morning, the house felt like a stranger's. Lena was up early, making coffee, acting like nothing had happened. "You sleep okay?" she asked, her tone too casual. Mark grunted, watching her closely. Her hands moved too quickly, her smile too forced. He wanted to demand answers, but that text had shifted something. Whoever sent it knew more than he did, and they were watching. "I've got a staff meeting," he lied, grabbing his keys. "I'll be late." Lena nodded, but her eyes followed him to the door, sharp and wary. At a coffee shop in downtown, Maple Grove, Mark met Tom, his co-worker, who'd become his reluctant confidant. The place smelled of roasted beans and cinnamon, but Mark barely noticed. He slid Lena's phone across the table. "I need to get into this," he said, keeping his voice low. Tom raised an eyebrow, pushing his glasses up. "You sure about this, man? This is a line you can't uncross." Mark's jaw tightened. "I crossed it when I found that photo. Someone's playing games, Tom. I need to know who." Tom sighed, scribbling the name of a private investigator on a napkin. "Sarah Klein. She's discreet, but be careful. You might not like what you find." Sarah Klein's office was a cramped room above a hardware store, cluttered with files and a flickering fluorescent light. Sarah, a wiry woman in her 50s with sharp eyes, listened as Mark recounted everything. The photo, the name change, the text. "You think she's transgender?" Sarah said bluntly, cutting through his hesitation. Mark nodded, his throat tight. "I don't know what to think. I just know she's lying about something." Sarah leaned back, tapping a pen against her desk. "I'll dig into Liam Carter, but if you want answers, you need to get me that phone. I've got a guy who can crack it." Mark handed it over, his stomach churning. "How long?" he asked. "A day, maybe 2, Sarah replied. "But Mark, if she's hiding something this big, there's probably more you don't know." Driving home, Mark's paranoia spiked. A black sedan lingered in his rearview mirror, too close for comfort. He took a random turn, then another. The car followed. His pulse raced as he pulled into a gas station, pretending to check his tires. The sedan slowed, then sped off. Was it a coincidence, or was someone watching him? He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. The life he'd built with Lena, 13 years of love, trust, and dreams of a family, felt like a house of cards, ready to collapse. That night, Lena was distant, her eyes glued to her laptop. "Where's my phone?" she asked suddenly, her voice sharp. Mark's heart skipped. "Kitchen counter," he lied, avoiding her gaze. She searched, her movements frantic, then gave up with a sigh. "Must have left it at book club," she muttered. Mark watched her, every word feeling like a test. He couldn't sleep, the weight of Sarah's words pressing in. There's probably more you don't know. He thought back to their early days, when Lena's quiet charm had drawn him in. They'd met at a charity gala in Minneapolis, her laughter lighting up the room. She'd said she was an only child, her parents gone. He'd believed her. Why wouldn't he? The next day, Sarah called. "Got something," she said, her voice clipped. "Meet me at the office." Mark's stomach twisted as he drove, the Minnesota sky gray and heavy with the promise of snow. Sarah handed him a folder. Liam Carter was born in Duluth, 1985. Male at birth. Moved to Minneapolis in 2007, started hormone therapy in 2008, legally changed his name to Lena Marie Carter in 2009. No criminal record, but there's a gap. 2 years before you met. No employment, no address. Like she went off the grid. Mark's hand shook as he flipped through the pages. A photo from a 2007 driver's license showed Liam. Same hazel eyes, same jawline. It was Lena, unmistakable. "Why didn't she tell me?" he whispered. Sarah's eyes softened. Fear, maybe, shame. Society's not exactly kind to trans people, but there's something else. She slid another document across the desk. Liam had a sister, Emily Carter. Died in 2010, suicide. The family fell apart after. Lena's parents cut contact when she transitioned. She was alone when she met you. Mark's chest tightened, a mix of pity and betrayal swirling inside. Lena had carried this pain, but she'd built their marriage on a lie. "Anything on the phone?" he asked. Sarah nodded. "My guy's still working on it. But Mark, whoever sent that text, they know Lena's past and they're close." That evening, Mark sat in his car outside the house, watching the windows. Lena was inside, her silhouette moving behind the curtains. He thought about Emily, about Lena's parents abandoning her. For a moment he saw her not as his wife, but as a young woman fighting to survive. The image broke his heart, but it didn't erase the deception. He'd spent years in fertility clinics, enduring tests, believing their dream was possible. She'd let him hope knowing it wasn't. The anger came back, hotter now. Inside, Lena was cooking dinner, the smell of garlic and onions filling the air. "You're quiet," she said, glancing over her shoulder. Mark's eyes fell on her phone. Her new phone, bought that morning. "Got a replacement?" he asked, his voice steady. She nodded, not meeting his gaze. "Yeah, the other one's gone. No big deal." But it was a big deal. Sarah's guy had her old phone, and Mark knew it held answers. He changed the subject, but his mind was elsewhere. Who was the unknown? Texter? A friend? An enemy? Someone from Lena's past? The next morning, Mark woke to a voicemail from Sarah. "Call me. Now." His heart raced as he dialed her number, stepping outside to avoid Lena's ears. "The phone's unlocked," Sarah said. "There's a deleted message thread with someone named EC. Initials match Emily Carter, but she's dead. The messages are vague, but they mention leaving and starting over. And Mark? There's a bank transfer, $10,000, sent to an offshore account last week." Mark's blood ran cold. "Leaving?" he repeated. "As in running away?" Sarah's voice was grim. "Looks like it, but there's more. That text you got? It came from a burner phone, bought in Maple Grove 2 days ago. Whoever sent it is local." Mark's world tilted. Lena was planning to disappear. But why now? And who was EC? He drove to work, barely registering the road. At school, Tom noticed his distraction. "You look like hell," he said. Mark hesitated, then spilled everything. Sarah's findings, the bank transfer, the burner phone. Tom's face darkened. "You need to confront her, Mark. Tonight. Or go to the cops." Mark shook his head. "Not until I know everything. I need to know why." That afternoon, Mark spotted the black sedan again, parked across from the school. This time, a woman sat inside, her face obscured by sunglasses. His skin prickled. Was she the texter? Before he could approach, she drove off. He called Sarah, his voice shaking. "Someone's following me, a woman. Dark hair, sunglasses. Sarah's tone sharpened. Stay calm, I'm running the sedan's plates. Get home, lock the doors. Mark's paranoia spiked. Was Lena working with someone, or was someone working against her? At home, Lena was packing a suitcase. Book club retreat, she said, her voice too bright. Mark's eyes narrowed. Since when do book clubs have retreats? She shrugged, avoiding his gaze. It's a new thing. He watched her zip the bag, his heart pounding. The suitcase was too big for a weekend. He waited until she was in the shower, then checked her new phone. No passcode this time. His hand shook as he opened her messages. A recent text from EC read, "Flights booked, midnight tomorrow. Don't tell him." Mark's breath stopped. Lena was leaving him. Tomorrow. And someone was helping her. But who? And what did they know about the deadly truth waiting to unravel? Mark Ellison's heart pounded as he stared at the text on Lena's phone. Flights booked, midnight tomorrow. Don't tell him. In their Maple Grove home, the woman he'd loved for 13 years was planning to vanish, and someone, EC, was helping her. But the truth behind her transgender secret was about to unravel into a deadly tragedy that would shake the nation. Mark stood in the hallway, Lena's phone burning in his hand. The shower was still running, steam curling from under the bathroom door. His mind raced. She's leaving me. After everything. The betrayal cut deeper than the secret itself. 13 years of hoping for a child, of enduring whispers and tests, all, while Lena knew it was impossible. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but that text from EC felt like a warning. Whoever they were close. Too close. When Lena emerged, her hair damp and her eyes wary, Mark didn't hesitate. "Who's EC?" he asked, holding up her phone. Her face drained of color, her towel slipping slightly as she froze. "Mark, how did you—" She started, but he cut her off. "Flight's booked, Lena. Tomorrow you're running away. Why?" Her lips trembled, and for a moment she looked like a cornered animal. "I can explain," she whispered, stepping back. "But you need to trust me." "Trust you?" Mark's voice cracked. "You lied about who you are, about Liam Carter, about us having a family, and now you're sneaking off with someone else?" Lena's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she sank onto the couch, her hands covering her face. "I was going to tell you," she said, her voice muffled. "When we met, I was so scared. I'd lost everything, my family, my sister, my identity. Transitioning was my only way to survive. I thought if I told you, you'd leave me." Mark's chest tightened, her words stirring pity but not enough to douse his anger. "You let me dream of a child," he said. "You watched me hope knowing it was a lie." Lena looked up, her eyes raw. "I loved you, Mark. I still do. But I couldn't face losing you if the truth came out." Before Mark could respond, a crash came from the back door. Glass shattered, echoing through the house. Mark spun around, his pulse spiking. "Stay here," he hissed, grabbing a kitchen knife. The back door was ajar, shards of glass glinting on the floor. Footprints in the snow led to the alley, but no one was there. His hands shook as he called 911, his voice unsteady. "Someone broke into my house, 1427 Oakwood Lane. Hurry." Lena stood behind him, her face pale. "Mark, we need to leave," she whispered. "Now." But her urgency felt wrong. Was she scared, or hiding something worse? The police arrived within minutes, their flashlights cutting through the dark. Officer Jenna Patel took their statements, her eyes narrowing at Lena's nervousness. "Any idea who'd do this?" she asked. Mark hesitated, the mysterious text flashing in his mind. "Maybe," he said. "I got a strange message a few days ago. Someone knows something about my wife." Lena's head snapped up, but she said nothing. Patel nodded, jotting it down. "We'll look into it. Stay vigilant." As the officers left, Mark's phone buzzed. A voicemail from Sarah Klein, the PI. "Mark, it's urgent. Meet me at my office. I know who EC is." Mark drove to Sarah's office, Lena's pleas to stay home ignored. The Minnesota night was bitter, the streets slick with ice. Sarah was waiting, her face grim. "EC is Elise Carter," she said, sliding a photo across her desk. It showed a woman in her 30s, dark hair, sharp features, eerily similar to Lena. Lena's cousin. She was close to Lena's sister, Emily, before Emily's suicide. Elise blamed Lena's transition for tearing the family apart. She's been in and out of Maple Grove for weeks. Mark's stomach dropped. "The woman in the black sedan," he said. Sarah nodded. "Likely. And there's more. That $10,000 transfer? It went to Elise. But the messages on Lena's old phone suggest Elise wasn't helping her run. She was blackmailing her." Mark's head spun. Blackmailing her? For what? Sarah's eyes darkened, exposing Lena's past. Elise threatened to tell you everything unless Lena paid up. But Lena's last message to Elise said she was done paying. That's when the flight plan started. Mark gripped the folder, his knuckles white. "So Elise sent the text to me, to push me to confront Lena." Sarah nodded. "And it worked. But Elise is dangerous, Mark. She's got a history, stalking, harassment, and she's still in town." Back home, Lena was gone. Her suitcase was missing, the house eerily quiet. Mark's heart raced as he called her phone straight to voicemail. He checked the garage. Her car was still there. Where did she go? Panic set in, but then his phone rang. An unknown number. "Mr. Ellison," a woman's voice said, cold and deliberate. "If you want Lena, come to the Starlight Motel, room 12. Alone, no cops." The line went dead. Mark's hands shook. Was this Elise? Or someone else? He grabbed his coat and drove, the knife tucked in his pocket. The Starlight Motel was a run-down strip near the airport, its neon sign flickering. Room 12's door was cracked open, the air inside thick with cigarette smoke. Lena sat on the bed, her face bruised, her hands tied. A woman stood over her, Elise Carter, her eyes wild. "You must be Mark," Elise said, a smirk twisting her lips. "Sorry it had to come to this." Mark's grip tightened on the knife. "Let her go," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. Elise laughed, pulling a gun from her waistband. "She lied to you for 13 years, ruined your life, and you're still protecting her?" Lena's eyes met Mark's, pleading. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have told you everything." Elise cut her off. "Shut up. You destroyed our family, Liam. Emily's dead because of you." Mark's mind reeled. Elise's hatred wasn't just about Lena's secret. It was personal, rooted in grief and blame. "This isn't about me," Mark said, stepping closer. "You're blackmailing her. You sent that text." Elise's smirk faded. "You were supposed to leave her, not play hero, but fine. If you won't walk away, I'll end this myself." Before Mark could react, Lena lunged, knocking Elise's arm. The gun fired, the bullet grazing Mark's shoulder. Pain seared through him, but adrenaline took over. He tackled Elise, the knife clattering to the floor. They struggled, Elise's nails clawing at his face. Lena screamed, trying to untie her hands, then a deafening crack. Elise went limp, blood pooling beneath her. Mark staggered back, horrified. Lena held the gun, her hands shaking. I had to," she sobbed. "She was going to kill you." Police swarmed the motel, their sirens piercing the night. Lena was arrested, her wrists cuffed as she whispered apologies to Mark. He stood frozen, blood dripping from his shoulder, watching his wife, his life, taken away. Elise's body was covered, her gun bagged as evidence. Officer Patel approached, her voice gentle. "We need your statement, Mr. Ellison, but you're lucky to be alive." Mark nodded, numb. Lucky didn't feel like the right word. The investigation unfolded quickly. Elise had been stalking Lena for months, her blackmail escalating after she learned of Lena's transgender past through old medical records. The $10,000 was just the start. Elise had demanded more, threatening to expose Lena to Mark and their community. Lena, terrified of losing her marriage and facing societal backlash, planned to flee with Elise's help. not knowing Elise intended to kill her. The break-in at their home was Elise's warning, her way of tightening the noose. Lena's shot was ruled self-defense, but her deception and flight plans led to charges of obstruction of justice. Mark's world crumbled. The trial was a media circus, headlines screaming, "Wife's transgender secret sparks deadly conspiracy." Maple Grove, once a quiet suburb, became a battleground for debate. Some saw Lena as a victim, her silence born of fear in a world unkind to trans people. Others called her a manipulator, her lies justifying Elise's rage. Mark testified, his voice hollow. "I loved her," he said, "but I didn't know her." Lena was sentenced to 3 years for obstruction, her tearful apology broadcast nationwide. "I hid who I was to survive," she said. "But I broke the man I loved." Mark sold the house, unable to sleep in the rooms where trust had died. He moved to a small apartment, his days haunted by what-ifs. What if Lena had told him the truth? What if he'd walked away instead of digging? The fertility dreams that once defined him felt like a cruel mirage, but so did his anger, Lena's fear. Her years as Liam, her family's rejection, her sister's suicide was real. He didn't forgive her, but he understood her, and that was its own kind of pain. The nation watched, divided. Talk shows dissected the case, some calling for trans protections, others demanding transparency in marriage. Elise's family mourned, painting her as a grieving sister driven to madness. Lena's story sparked protests, her face a symbol of both courage and deceit. For Mark, it was simpler. He'd wanted a family. Instead, he got a truth that cost everything. As he sat alone, a photo of their wedding day in his hand, he wondered if love was ever enough when secrets build the foundation. Well, have you ever heard of a case like this? Comment your thoughts. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.